Okay, welcome Cloud Gurus, and in this lecture we're going to look at auto-scaling, and this is pretty much one of the best parts of AWS in my opinion, the fact that you can dynamically scale EC2 instances to meet load, and if you've got an outage, maybe an availability zone goes down, you can automatically just move your infrastructure across to another availability zone. So we're going to go through and configure an auto-scaling group. I'm going to call the group name, we'll just call it Production Auto Scale Web. Going to start the group with 2 instances. Here's where under network we basically add in our VPC, and in subnet this is really important. You click inside the box and you can see a drop down, and these are all the different availability zones available in your region. So if you just clicked one availability zone, what you're telling Autoscaling to do is just deploy EC2 instances in that particular availability zone. And the whole point of auto-scaling is to make your cloud, to make your infrastructure fault tolerant. So you want to spread this across as many availability zones as possible, depending on what your objectives are. But generally speaking, you want this in every availability zone possible. So we're going to go through and click here, and let's just start with an example. If we've got 2 instances and we've configured this across 3 availability zones, Amazon will automatically put these instances in different availability zones. So it'll spread the load as much as possible depending on what your preferences are. So if I removed West 1C, for example, it would automatically put these in 1A and 1B. And then if I was if I needed to go in and add a 3rd instance, it would automatically put it in these 2 availability zones. So I'll just go through and add all 3, and we've clicked on advanced details. Now in here you can basically add your load balancer. So you're going to say receive traffic from Elastic Load Balancer. I'm going to use our production load balancer which we created earlier, and we're going to run our health checks through our Elastic Load Balancer. And the grace period at the moment is 300 seconds. So basically it's going to poll that Elastic Load Balancer every 5 minutes and check whether or not our EC2 instances that are under that load balancer are available. And if they're not available, it's going to terminate the instances and it's going to add new instances. So I'm going to go through here and create a new scaling policy. We're going to say keep this group at its initial size. In fact, no, let's use scaling policies to adjust the capacity of this group, and we're going to scale between 1 and 3 instances. And so here under increase group size, we execute the policy when, and we're just going to add a new alarm. And I'm going to change my notification, so it's going to send a notification to my email address whenever the average of CPU utilization is greater than or equal to, and I'm just going to put in here 80%, for at least one consecutive period of 5 minutes. So if it goes above 5 minutes at 80%, it's going to create an alarm. It's going to send me an email, and then if you have a look here, it says take the action add, and we're going to add 1 instance to the group. So basically, if I have an EC2 instance that's going above 80% CPU utilization, maybe I'm starting to get a lot of traffic, it's then going to add another instance. But it's important to remember it's only going to scale between this size and this size, so between 1 and 3. If we then hit 80% on all 3, it's not going to add any more instances. And this can be really useful in controlling your budget, because the last thing you want to do is have auto-scaling create thousands of EC2 instances to meet maybe something's gone viral on the internet, but that thing is not a clear business objective. It's not going to make your business any more additional revenue, so you don't want to spend thousands and thousands of pounds supporting that traffic. You'd rather it just time out. So we'll go down here and we'll decrease the group size. So I'm going to create a similar policy, add a new alarm. So whenever my CPU utilization goes, say, lower than 25%, we're then going to remove 1 instance. and then wait 300 seconds before another scaling activity, and same here, wait 300 seconds before another scaling activity. So right now what we've configured is auto-scaling is going to start with 2 instances. It's going to be running health checks through the Elastic Load Balancer, and we'll just have to check what file it's actually checking, so we'll do that in a second. And then if it passes those health checks, that's great. It will just continue on. And then if the CPU utilization goes below the threshold that we just set, I think it was 30%, then it will it will terminate one instance. But it's important to remember that in the previous section where if we just go back up here, sorry, it's always going to be between 1 and 3 instances. So it all depends on our CPU utilization and what it's doing. So I'm going to go next. This is where we configure our notifications. So I'm just going to add my email list, and this will send me an email whenever instances launch, terminate, they fail to launch, fail to terminate, etc. And then we'll just leave the tags for now. And this is just the summary page or the review page, so we can see what it is it's tried to do. Now we're going to create our auto-scaling group. Okay, and it's been created successfully. So the first thing we want to do is just go to our load balancer. Now I have already changed this, but you probably haven't from last time. The health check was to something like healthcheck.html. You just want to change that to index.html, and the reason for that is if we go to our S3 bucket and we have a look at what's inside there, I don't think originally we had healthcheck.html saved to the bucket. I think it was just something we were using on a particular EC2 instance. So we do have index.html saved to the bucket. So if you just want to go back to your EC2 instance, go to your load balancers, and then if you just click on health check and edit health check, you can just change it in here to index.html. Okay, and if we have a look at instances, we can already see that there is 2 instances underneath this Elastic Load Balancer. They're currently out of service. So why don't we go and have a look at our instances. Now, I have been playing around with this a little bit before this lecture, so you're going to see a lot of terminated instances. But what we really want to do now is check whether or not these are actually serving up a public website. So we're going to grab the public IP address from our instance 1. Just open a new tab and enter that in there. And it doesn't look like it's ready. Don't forget, it's got to go in, the bootstrap script that we configured would basically go in, it would update the kernel, do all the security updates, it would install Apache, it would create some directories, etc. So it can take a little bit to bring these up. If we click on the other instance and get its IP address, we'll open that in a new page. And there we go, hello world, so that is ready. Let's have a look at this one. Yep, so they're both up. Now if we go back to our load balancer page, we can see that these are still out of service, so it's still running the health checks on it basically and making sure that it's all good to go. I'll just do a refresh. The other thing I might want to look at is editing this health check and just making it a little less aggressive, because at the moment it's timing out. It's checked at every 30 seconds, and an unhealthy threshold is 2 and a healthy threshold is 3. So basically what this health check is doing is it's going to it's going to take exactly 1 minute, and if that index.html is not deployed within 1 minute, it's going to say this EC2 instance is not healthy, and your auto-scaling group might start deleting it automatically, and that might be what's happening already. So if we just go back to instances, you can see that they're out of service. I'm just going to edit this health check and make it less aggressive. So I'm going to make my health check interval, if we do an unhealthy threshold, I'm going to make as 5. So we'll keep all the rest, but that will just stop auto-scaling from attacking itself effectively. Great, we've got both instances in service, and if we now go to, if we grab the DNS name for this load balancer and we copy it, oops, we just add it in here, and you can see that's going to one of our two EC2 instances. So why don't we do a little bit of testing for our load balancing, auto scaling group. So what we might want to do, just go through and just randomly terminate an instance. So that 181 IP address will now become unavailable, so we can't access it. If we go through our Elastic Load Balancer, however, it's still going to service content. It's going to service to the other one, to 129. And because the health check on the load balancer, if we go back to our load balancer and check the health check, so now a failed unhealthy threshold it's going to take exactly 2.5 minutes, so 5 times 30 seconds for that EC2 instance to be ruled unhealthy, and then Autoscaling will then react and add in another instance. So if I go back to my EC2 dashboard, you can see it's gone down to 1 running instance. Look at that, it's automatically determined that that instance has become unhealthy, so we got quite lucky there, and it is already setting up a brand new instance. And once that is a healthy instance, it will be added back to the load balance pool. If we go back to our load balancers, you see the unhealthy instance has been removed, and once the other one has passed all its health checks, that will be added back to that load balance pool. So what we've made is really highly resilient site. It's copying the content from the S3 bucket, it's installing Apache, etc. It's all scripted. You don't have to worry now if you are deploying your infrastructure in AWS about necessarily getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning and SSHing into your web servers and trying to bring them back up, etc. Amazon take care of all that for you, and that's one of the true powers of the AWS platform, is that you can have completely dynamic, highly scalable setup, and it's all scripted. You no longer have to worry about the physical kit, you no longer have to worry about hosts failing and having to do manual failovers, etc. It's all done through a combination of auto scaling, a combination of elastic load balancers, and as you'll discover in the next section, using Route 53, which we will get into in the next section. So that really concludes the lecture on auto scaling and launch configurations. The only thing we haven't covered off that is around EC2 that can come up in the exam is Lambda. Lambda is still in the compute section of the course is Lambda. Lambda is still in beta at the time of recording, so I'm just going to talk about it in terms of high-level concepts and how the pricing works. But if you have time, feel free to move on to the next lecture, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.